I'm going to be talking about actually living out your purpose. The very first step, certain understandings you need to have for you to every single day have the confidence that you are living out your purpose. I'm going to address 3 specific things. Number 1, purpose from God's point of view. If we believe that God is a manufacturer, He's the one that created us and put us here on this earth, then surely He must have something to say about purpose. And so we're going to be looking from His point of view. I'm going to also be addressing this question of, is purpose preset? Is somebody destined to be something in this life and that is it? They can't do anything about it. Or do you make your own fate? So I'm going to be addressing that. Number 2, I'm going to be talking about how focusing solely on my gifts, my talents, is a poor indication of what your purpose is and why you're here on earth. And of course, number 3, I'm going to be talking about 4 ways through which you can begin to live out your purpose, or through which your purpose can find expression in everyday life. So looking beyond just what's my gift, what's my talent, to 4 thorough and robust ways that you can begin to live out your purpose. Awesome. So let's get started. Going to the first thing that I want to address, purpose from God's point of view. I mean, if you go back and listen to my first episode in this series, or if you have already, I talked about the fact that every single person that comes into this earth, God knew them before they were even formed in their mother's womb. God said that to Jeremiah. When Jeremiah was being all hesitant, God said, I want you to be a prophet, go and speak to the nations, etc. And Jeremiah was like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm not equipped. I don't have the strength. I'm too young, etc. And God basically starts to try to convince him by telling him and opening his eyes to the fact that before you were even born, before I gave you the body, because the Bible says that God gives the seed the body as He wills. Before I even put you in your mother's womb, before I gave you this body, I knew you as a prophet and I equipped you. So I put inside you everything you will ever need to live out your purpose as a prophet on this earth. So in other words, every one of us that comes into this earth, we are already loaded with what is required for us to fulfill and to live out the assignment that God is sending us to fulfill upon this earth. In other words, let me say it another way. There is an investment that is in you, that God put in you when you were born into this earth. Everyone is born loaded with an inheritance, with an investment that God put inside you. Not just for yourself, but for humanity. And I talk about this a little bit more in the first episode about how if you're waiting to fulfill purpose, that is because you don't yet realize that a baby that is born into a family is already fulfilling purpose, because the very fact that that baby is born into that family and brings joy into that home, they say, oh, we have a son. Unto us a son has been given. Unto us a child has been born. And that child, the very presence of that child, even though it's a baby, it's not doing anything except eat and poop all day, is bringing joy, is fulfilling a certain purpose in their life, a contribution to the lives of the people in that family. It's already fulfilling purpose. So there's an investment that is inside you. You are equipped to live out your purpose. So if there's an investment and God is an investor, that means there's an expectation of a return. And we see this in many places in the Bible, particularly in some of the parables that Jesus told. For example, He talked about the parable of the talents, where 3 servants were given different talents by the master. And when the master came back, he expected a return. The servant that received 1 talent and handed back everything that he was given in the exact same state that he was given it, he was actually rebuked. He was called a wicked servant. In other words, the master, or God, expected him to multiply what he had been given. So someone comes into this earth and they return exactly the same way, and you can't point to the lives that have been impacted, the lives that have been touched, made better. You haven't multiplied yourself using what has been given to you for other people to enter into, for the relief of humanity, for the expansion of humanity in whatever capacity. Surely that person is going to have something. You're going to have to answer to the person that invested all that stuff into you. So there is an investment that goes into every single one of us, and God expects a return. And honestly, honestly, I genuinely believe that it is quite rare, if not impossible, for someone to live their entire life and not really impact another human being. There has to be some deep level of selfishness for that to be the case. However, I honestly believe that a lot of us as human beings are still on the level of, at least you should have put the money with the bank and it would have earned some interest. Remember that the master said that to the servant. So the servant returned and said, you gave me 1 talent, here's your 1 talent back. Nothing else came out of it. There was no increase whatsoever, talk less of multiplication. And the master made a concession and said, at least earn an interest, at least add instead of multiply. So a lot of us, I believe, could be living at the level of we're just adding to humanity instead of multiplying and seriously impacting humanity. And one of the reasons why that is the case is, I addressed this in the first episode, we're waiting for this grand vision to happen. And we live life all the way through 10, 20, 30, 40 years, forgetting that all that while you could have intentionally been multiplying what has been given you for the service of humanity. God expects a return on his investment. Don't wait for when you can fulfill the dream of opening orphanages all over disadvantaged areas, forgetting that every single day you can still make a contribution. And that contribution may not necessarily look like the dream you have in your heart to build orphanages. It could literally be what is inside you now that you can give and to help humanity, to help somebody on your team at work. What ideas can you bring to the table that will increase productivity and multiply the income or the revenue for that organization that would allow them to hire more people and give people more ways of earning their livelihood? When you begin to think like that, you will understand that every single day provides you with opportunities to make an impact. You're not waiting for the big vision when you can actually start making an impact. So every day, every breath you draw, every 24-hour cycle is an investment that God gives you, including any other resources that you have available, including your physical strength. Is an investment that God puts inside you, not just for yourself, but for humanity. So he expects a return. Still saying on that, in terms of God's point of view, do we then say, to answer that question, is destiny or calling or divine assignment or purpose, is it preset or do we make our own fate? Now, those two schools of thought are actually extremes. So let's take the first one. So destiny is preset. It doesn't matter what you do. You can never change your destiny in this life. You can never change your fate. You are fated to be like this and to be like that. Some people are born rich and some people are born poor. Some people are born to have a significant life. Some people are born to have an insignificant life. Some people are born to make an impact on a global level. Some people are born not to make any impact at all. So this is the first school of thought, that when God was sending us, he said, okay, you're going to be prominent. You're going to be insignificant. And then the second school of thought says that you make your own fate in life. You choose, you decide exactly how your life is going to be. Now, these two schools of thought are extreme and by themselves, they're inaccurate. But when you bring them together in a balanced state in the middle, that is where the truth actually lies. In other words, God said to Jeremiah, before you were formed in the womb, I knew you. God spoke about the destiny of Jesus and what he was coming to the earth to fulfill. You can see throughout scripture that people like Moses, they were sent and born for a reason. However, it is not automatic. We have our own choice to make in the matter. Just because this is what God intended does not mean it will automatically happen. If that was the case, that your destiny is preset and there's nothing you can do to change it or make it happen or not happen, it's just going to happen. Why did God spend time convincing people like Jeremiah, people like Moses, people like Gideon? Because when he presented to them that this is what I have called you to do, they argued back. They're like, no, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. If they did have a choice in the matter, the idea or the thought would not even have entered their mind to say no. If they were robots, that no matter what, this is what they would end up doing, then they would not even have objected. They would be like, yes, sir, whatever you say, I'm going to do it. But we know that's not the case. And we know that there are people, scriptures tell us, that they had a specific purpose, but they messed it up and never recovered. Saul is an example of that. Saul the king. Saul was appointed king. God made him king and had he aligned his heart, had he taken on the posture of humility and of obedience to God, the lineage of Jesus would have traced back to Saul and not David. Moses is another example. Moses was appointed, born to lead the children of Israel and to take them into the promised land. But through an error, it was Joshua that took them in. A third example is, of course, the first Adam and the second Adam. The Bible calls Jesus in the book of Romans the second Adam, or the last Adam. Adam was created, and the intention was he was going to be the father of all of humanity. But he messed it up. Someone like Abraham had to be raised, and then after Abraham, Jesus then came in order to bring humanity and restore that fellowship that Adam lost. So yes, God has a prescribed. So it is prescribed as opposed to preset. Every human being has a prescribed purpose, a prescribed destiny, a prescribed quote unquote fate. But we still have the choice whether or not to align. It's like the parable that Jesus told where he said the father called his two sons and he said, I want you both to go into the field and to work. And the first son said, yes, father, I'm going to go. The second son said, I'm not going. The first son, even though he said, yes, I'm going to go, I have the zeal to go, he didn't go. The second son had a rethink. He thought about it and he thought, why can't I go? My father is sending me to do something. And then he changed his mind and he went. So you can see, and Jesus said, which of these two obeyed their father? It's not the one that just said, oh, I'm going to go, I'm going to start with enthusiasm. So it's not necessarily how you start. It is how you live out the overall sense of your life. That is what counts. Someone may have, quote unquote, wasted parts of their life up until a certain point. You can never write a human being off because something in them could awaken that very moment. And for the rest of their life, if they live for another 10 years, even if they're 80, they could end up, living out and pouring out all that God has put inside them in 10 years that they didn't do in 80 years. So we're not fated for a particular destiny. Our destiny is not preset, it is prescribed. And it is then up to us in partnership with God to intentionally begin to release whatever God has put inside us for the sake of humanity. And I'm going to show us precisely how we can begin to do that in our everyday life. The second thing that I want to talk about is why gifts and talents, focusing and zooming in only on gifts and talents, is a poor indication of purpose and what the more accurate measure is. People have been told your gifts will make room for you and put you before kings. So people have this idea, what are my gifts, what are my talents? And until they are quote unquote using their gifts and talents, they don't feel like they're fulfilling purpose. So someone says, oh, I really love to bake. I have the gift of just working with my hands. But at the moment, they're an accountant. They're working in an organization. They're crunching numbers all day and they're saying, my goodness, I just want to be a baker. I just want to make things with my hands. That is where my gifts and talents lie. And they're so focused that until I'm doing that, I'm not fulfilling purpose. Until I'm doing that, they're not happy. Forgetting, using the 4 measures that I'm going to be talking about in this video, there are opportunities every single day. Remember this, every breath you take is an opportunity to live out your purpose. Purpose is not a destination. I talked about that in the first episode. There's an opportunity for you to live out your purpose with every breath you take. The same way the moment a baby takes a breath and comes alive and starts to cry, it already fulfills and lives out the purpose for which he or she was sent in that scene, which is to be a joy to that family. No matter how mundane you feel like your life is, you can and should be living out purpose at that point. So gifts, talents, focusing on that alone is a poor indication of what your purpose is. And it can make you start feeling like your life is insignificant. All I'm doing is just sitting at this computer, just punching numbers every day. What is the purpose of my life anyway? No, there are opportunities, even in that thing that is mundane, for you to live out your life. Now, here's why this is important. Because living out your purpose, contributions to humanity, giving of what God has put inside you, this is where that sense of significance comes from. And if we're not owning it and intentionally doing it, you can go through 10, 20 years and you look back and say, I've not really been happy. I just feel like, I just feel like, what is the purpose of my life? It's because you didn't recognize that every single day you were given multiple opportunities to release of what has been put inside you in order to make somebody's life better. And if you had been drawing on that, your soul would have felt very significant instead of waiting for until I can use my gift or my talent or do this massive thing. I have a gift of singing, so until I fill stadiums, I'm not fulfilling purpose. No, that way of thinking ingrains this low self-esteem inside us. Like, my life doesn't really count for anything. And that's not true. And that's when you become self-conscious. Like, am I even worth it? Is my life counting for anything? Do you see what I mean? So, gifts and talents, very poor indication, very myopic, limited view of thinking about your purpose. And of course, I now want to go on into what are the 4 ways through which your purpose can find expression in your daily life. I have 4. I'm going to name them and then go deeper into each one. Number 1, 4 ways that you can live out your purpose. Find expression with what God has put inside you every single day. Not when I am this or when I am that. No, every single day with every breath you draw. What are the 4 ways? Number 1 is by identifying and acknowledging. Number 1 is your pains. Number 2 is your strengths. Number 3 is your passions. And number 4 is your uniqueness. Okay, so let's go into your pains. What are the things that just irritate you? In the beginning of this episode, I talked about how every single person, human being, when they are born, there's an investment that God puts inside them for them to be able to fulfill and live out their purpose, fulfill the assignment, whatever it is they were sent here to do. Now, that does not just mean there are certain gifts and talents that God has put inside you. There's some things in particular that He has written into your DNA that is unique to you, like your pains, the things that just naturally irritate you. God wrote it in there because He needs you to be triggered by those things in order for you to wake up and say, no, I need to do something about that. Think about Moses. Moses is a beautiful example of this. Moses was raised in Egypt in the palace as a prince of Egypt. He was raised, he would have been like a ruthless, he would not have gone around thinking, oh, I just want to be kind and helping people. He would have been raised as someone that was ruthless. Because remember, Pharaoh, they grew up together. Pharaoh was ruthless. And how can you explain him not knowing anything about the Israelites, his heritage, just waking up one day and he sees an Egyptian taskmaster beating a slave and he's so angry by it. The thing pains him so much that he literally takes the life of the taskmaster. Think about it. Where did that come from? I mean, we can explain it away if somebody had said Miriam, his sister, was still in his life and had been feeding him with stories about how you are an Israelite or you are a Jew or these are your people that are being beaten. He didn't know, he didn't have access to any of that. Meaning something had been written into his DNA to make him hate seeing that slave or slaves treated that way. Something had been written, it was unique to him, even though he grew up in an environment that honestly could not have justified that kind of behavior. But when he saw that thing happening, something rose up inside that, no, that's wrong. And I'm going to do something about it. I will not stand for that. What are the things that just naturally irritate you and anger you and cause you pain? That you feel like, no, this is wrong. Think about the people that have impacted the world in monumental ways, whether living or dead. It was always out of their pain. It was always the fact that there's this pain of injustice. Think about Mandela. Think about people like Gandhi. It was a pain of injustice. Think about people like Martin Luther King, to the point that they were willing to lay down their lives because they were pained by something they saw in the environment, and they were like, no, I'm not going to stand for that. So let's even take it from the revolutionary kind of approach and examples. Somebody says that, oh, the pain of, you mean the children that are not being educated, they're home, they're hawking under the hot sun, and that pain gets that person to say, do you know, I'm going to do something about that. So what angers you? What irritates you? That other people will be like, what's your own? Other people are so almost blind to it. They're not even pricked by it, but you can pass by that situation and your heart doesn't break. Now, let me tell you how people typically respond to this pain. And this is why, as I say, we're walking by and passing opportunities to live out our purpose every day because we don't engage with it. Do you know what people do? They complain, they judge. So you work in an organization and you're just like, why is everybody so disorganized? I mean, it irks you. It irritates you by how tardy people are, by how tardy the whole system. There's no system for anything. You want to find something, you must spend 3 hours to look for it. When you're thinking, my goodness, if you just put a system in 5 minutes, you can find what you're looking for. And every time you come in contact with it, it irks you. It irritates you. That thing was written into your DNA by God because He wanted to get your attention to solve that problem. Instead, what people do is they start to complain. And they will complain and judge people and stand on their high horse because this thing comes naturally to them. They'll stand on their high horse and begin to judge people and say, why are you so disorganized? Why are you like this? Why are you like that? Put the responsibility on other people. And there's something that I always say. If you're really serious about living our purpose, don't ever forget this. If anything catches your attention, if anything comes into your purview and you think, there's something wrong with that, that's not right, or something is misaligned, you have a part to play in getting that thing to where it's supposed to be. You have a part to play. You may not have the full part to play, but you, at the very least, have a part to play. So if we jerk responsibility, if we pass it on other people, and we blame other people, you are missing out an opportunity for you to live out. So there's an investment. The reason why it caught your attention is because God has deposited something inside you to make that thing right. But if instead, all you are willing to do is to blame and accuse people and criticize and complain and never lift a finger to actually try and make it right, you are missing out on opportunities for you to live out your purpose when you do that. Purpose is birthed in the place of pain. Even when you find yourself going through tough situations that are causing you pain in any area of your life, there's purpose in that thing. If you see it through, if you push through that pain to get to the place of abundance, it will open up channels for other people to drink from that abundance because you push through your pain. So pain is a great indication of what God has deposited inside us to live out our purpose and to contribute to humanity. The second one is your strengths. What comes naturally to you that you didn't earn? What do you do so easily, effortlessly, that other people struggle with? Other people will look at you and say, how on earth are you able to do this thing? What are your strengths? Purpose is also birthed in the place of strength. So you need to start paying attention to your strengths. What are you naturally good at? You could categorize and say your gift and talents come under this category as well. You just know how to do this thing. Nobody really taught you. You just know how to do it. You're just good at it. There's some people that were born as orators, as in they are born orators. They, from the moment they're born, they're skilled orators. Some people will spend all their lives trying to improve how they present and how they talk in person. For some people, just give them a mic or just, okay, tell me about this subject, and do you understand? They just go. The words are just pouring out of them. Like, how are you this articulate? And they didn't, it's not like they learned it. It's not like they went to school and then, became articulate. They can polish it. But these are the kinds of people that from primary school, the reports always say, talk too much, because the words just come out of them. So what are the things that come naturally to you? You walk into a chaotic environment and you just know how to put things in place. What are the things that come naturally to you? Now, again, when we have strengths, the thing that will cause us not to live out our purpose is when you start to use your strength as some kind of judgment stick to beat people over the head that are weak in that thing. No, once you begin to recognize that my strength is an investment for me to bless people, for me to bless humanity, for me to pull up those that are weak in that area, everything shifts. Take marriage for an example. Two people come together that are different. Someone has a strength in this area and the other person is weak in that area. If you don't understand that the reason why you have that strength so that you can serve the other person, your spouse that is weak in that area. You will spend all of your life justifying the reason why you have the strength and they must match up with your strength. And because they are not equipped with that strength, God never gave it to them. It was not part of their own package that they received. I mean, they can do what they can to sort of come higher, but it will never be as effortless and as natural as it is for you. So it's more of thinking, oh, this was given to me. I was equipped with this strength. How then can I serve the people in my life? How then can I serve humanity with this strength? A few examples from the Bible. Solomon's gift of wisdom. That was his strength. I mean, the guy would come up with decisions and things that people would be like, whoa. He used his strength to serve the people in his life. He used it, right? Think about the very first time that it is recorded in scripture that Solomon used that wisdom that God gave him, that strength of his, was to settle a dispute between two women. One had slept and accidentally slept upon her baby, killed her baby, and then wanted to steal the baby of the other woman, claiming that it was her son that was dead. So they brought the matter to Solomon, and Solomon gave one judgment that people are, whoa, where did that wisdom come from? They were like, how on earth, without shedding blood, without threatening anybody, without torturing anybody to try and get the truth, just one statement brought resolution. That's a strength. That's a gift. And he used it to serve, right? Within his area of responsibility. He started there. So you're in a job. Start with your strength. Start showcasing your strength. Start using your strength in service. Because I hope you realize that Solomon could have said, what's my own? I don't have time for this, all these trivial things. Go and kill all of them, including the two women and the child. Why, how dare you bring these trivial things to me? I'm a king. He could have just not use his strength. He could have belittled the whole thing and said, I'm too big to handle that. But he started there. He started to release his strength for the very mundane. And then guess what happens? The more he did that, the more news and fame of his strength spread all over the world to the point where people were bringing shiploads of money to him. Because when you begin to live out your purpose in this way, the earth will respond. It must respond. Kings will show up, but you have to be willing to release it. First of all, to recognize, catalog what your strengths are, and be willing to release them for the mundane. Don't say, oh, I'm too big for this. It's only when this happens or this kind of person comes to me that I'm going to help them. Every opportunity you have that you genuinely can help and bring your strengths to the table, do it. Another example was Ruth. Do you know that Ruth's loyalty was a strength? To be loyal to a fault, it was a strength, and she used it to serve. She was loyal to her husband. She was loyal to her mother-in-law to a fault. Nobody can blame Oprah, because after Naomi's speech as to how, do you know what? I love the fact that you want to come with me. However, this is the reality. You can't really blame Oprah for turning back, because it makes sense to turn back. Let me go and find a husband so that I can have my children. Because there's no way, according to Jewish custom, he can't just go to Israel or Judah with Naomi and then just go and find a random husband. It didn't work like that. It had to be somebody in the family that would agree to marry, which very much narrowed the chances. So Oprah had every right to say, do you know what? Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you for everything. I will see you later. But Ruth's loyalty was a strength. She kept showing up with her strength. When they got back to Judah and things were bleak, they were at the bottom rung in terms of prosperity. They were dirt poor. Poor to the point that she literally had to go out and gather for them to be able to eat what the harvesters were leaving behind. This is like, when they show pictures of children that are going into skips to try and get food, scavenge for food. That is how poor they were. She could have said, I know that I want to be loyal to you, but I can't do this one. Naomi, God bless you. I will see you later. She could have left. But her loyalty was just a strength. Like, we would die here together. Your God will be my God. Your people will be my people. And she was rewarded. She didn't release her strength to get rewarded. She just released her strength because she knew that this is something God has put inside me. And this woman needs my strength in this season of her life. I'm just going to show up and give it. And she was rewarded. life would always reward you when you begin to use your strength in the service of humanity. So that's the second one, which is your strength. The third one, and this is the one that is very popular. People really completely understand this. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. And that is your passions. What are you passionate about? What do you love passionately? What brings you great satisfaction when you're doing it? What is that thing? What do you love? What are you passionate about? But as I said, if you only focus on like passions and you ignore your pains and you ignore your strengths, in fact, in terms of living out your purpose, pains and strengths are the two biggest ways that opportunities will come for you to live out your purpose. Not necessarily with your passion. Your passion, it may be once or twice in your life that you really would have big opportunities to live out your purpose. Do you understand that? So don't focus on your passion and say, oh, I love to sing. I have a passion for singing. So until I'm in the studio recording songs for people, I'm not really fulfilling purpose. And if the person is working as an accountant, you're spending 40 to 60 hours a week as an accountant and you're doing it half-heartedly. You're not really into it. You're just like, do you know, let's just collect salary. And you say, oh, until I go and spend 1 hour in the studio once every 6 months, that's when I'm really excited. That's when I'm really fulfilling purpose. Can you see how you've wasted multiple cycles of 24-hour days because you're waiting for your passion? Passion is valid though, but it's a very small part of it. So it is, what are your passions? What are you passionate about? Let me use Paul as an example. Paul had a passion, a zeal, in fact, an all-consuming passion to see the Jews saved. To see the Jews saved. He was like, you people must be saved. You people must be saved. To the point that he will go, they'll beat him. He will come back. In fact, there was a point where it says that they beat him and they left him for dead. I'm pretty sure Paul even died because it says that the believers gathered around him. They must have prayed and, he came back to life. He was either completely dead or very close to dying. And then strength came back to him because they prayed for him. He will still go back. He literally got up and went back into the city. He was so passionate about this. But that passion, he did everything he could to. He would intercede. He would write letters. He would go and take. So he did something. Pay attention to your passions. But I chose Paul because Paul is a wonderful example to showcase that even though his passion was the Jews, the bulk of his purpose, like 90% of the people that he led to Christ were Gentiles. His passion was Jewish people, but the bulk, if you say living out his purpose, was Gentiles. So yes, use your passions, pursue your passions, and use it to serve humanity, but don't be limited by that. Don't be limited by that. And of course, the last one is your uniqueness. What do I mean by that? In a world where people are trying to fit in, you should regularly ask yourself, what stands me out? What do I mean by that? Your uniqueness is a gift to this world. Your personality, your race, your gender, your background, your tastes, your experiences, your worldviews are all what make you unique and allow you to bring a fresh perspective to your world. What is different about you is a gift to your world, is a gift to your team. So if you think about it this way, you have to say you're the only female on that team. You're the only woman on that team. Or you're the only Black person on that team. Instead of feeling self-conscious and wanting to become like everybody else and wanting to be like the boys, be masculine, or you want to be whiter than white, even though you are Black and you have different experiences. You grew up in, let's say, Nigeria or some parts of Africa where it's a different culture, and you feel like, no, I don't want to stand out. I want to blend in. Listen, you are depriving that team of what God has put inside you for the advancement. Because remember, when a human being comes into this earth, the Bible says that God gives the seed a body as he wills. So God chose, in order for you to be able to live out your purpose, that you're going to be born a certain, gender, male or female, to a certain race, to a certain culture, economic background, all these things literally are what were pre-planned to help you really live out your purpose. You say, oh, but why are some people born rich and why are some people born poor? Have you not seen that some of the richest people in the world today that are doing the most good where money is concerned, they were born dirt poor? If they had been born rich, we probably would never have heard about them. So when we try to blend in, you are really doing a disservice to the world. When you try and minimize what makes you different, you're doing a disservice to the world. You shouldn't strive to become like people, not in the sense that, oh, I aspire to be better, but no, I want to blend in like vanilla. No, you're doing a disservice if you do that. Because you're the only woman on the team, you shouldn't start acting like exerting masculine energy and saying, I'm just like the boys. You're not just like the boys, right? You're different. And because you're different, you have a different perspective that if you contribute that perspective will make the whole better, will create greater outcomes. And on the other side of that, don't allow anyone to make you feel less because you're different, because they're ignorant. It is ignorance that talks like that. If someone tries to make you feel less because you're different to them, it's because they're ignorant. You have to educate them and help them see that because I'm different, it is for your good. If we're exactly the same, we will always only see things exactly the same way. How do we then look around, for the blind spots? Because my perspective is meant to lend to the whole. It's meant to make you better in marriage, right? Somebody's perspective. That's why when people try to control and say that everything must be done my way, it's only the way I see that it must be done, you're severely limiting how far that marriage can go and that union, what God planned for that union to achieve on this earth. You're severely limiting it by saying it has to be my way only. No, God planned it and he brought two people together. He didn't make us hermaphrodites. He decided to bring two people together to say, you have a worldview that looks like this. You have a worldview. By the time you combine the two, you make something beautiful. You make something unique. So trying to lord it over your spouse and say, no, it has to be this way. You're missing something really beautiful. Their perspective is an addition, is a gift to that conversation. What you're bringing to the table as a unique version of you is a gift that you're bringing to that table. So your uniqueness is absolutely important. So what is unique about you? When you walk into places, catalog what makes you different and speak up. You have views that you know are different. Speak up. It's like the yin and the yang. You must have the difference for things to actually flow in harmony. You can't really have harmony without yin and yang, because this is how they fit. If you take two things that are exactly the same and you have a shape, there's like a jagged edge or something, and they're exactly the same, they won't fit. But if this one is like this one like this and you bring it together, you can see how harmony is created. So your uniqueness, this is why I'm saying that when you begin to view purpose like this, it opens up a world of opportunities and possibilities instead of just thinking, oh, it's my passion, oh, it's only my gift and my talent. No, every single day you have a difference of opinion. It is an opportunity for you to bring a new perspective. You speak it in love. You try and help the person see that there's a new perspective, there's a different perspective. And by that, you are contributing to their own worldview. So they've come to the table and all they see is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your contribution, you see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Your contribution to that conversation is actually, I see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not to rubbish or belittle or eradicate their 1 to 5. No, to say, 1 to 5, that's what you're saying. And there's also 6 to 10. It was like, really? Oh, let's put it together. We now have 1 to 10. When you begin to see things like this, I'll give you an example just to help concretize it. When I was a teacher, right? When I was in education, I fully owned my Africanness, number one, and my Christianity, my Christian values. I never tried to blend in the sense that to deny myself. I mean, I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. Spent all of my, adult life, all of my life, up until when I graduated university before I immigrated to the United Kingdom. Did I stay rigid and not try to improve myself and adapt in some way to my new environment? Absolutely no. That's not what I'm saying. So even in my improving the way I would speak, my diction, my grammar, and all these things, I still, if there's a hint of an accent, I'm not going to try and eradicate the entire accent, because there's something about the way I speak that brings something to the table. Somebody will hear that and they will be able to connect to that. Do you understand what I mean? Let me explain that. I teach in a school. Let's say, for example, I teach in a school and I'm speaking. Of course, I speak well, and I continue to improve the way I speak, etc. But there's still like a ting of an accent that you can hear when I'm speaking. And somebody comes and their mother is Nigerian, for example, or some form of African country, maybe Ghana or Kenyan or whatever. That is what they're hearing at home, right? The child may have been born and raised here. The child is maybe 13, but what they're hearing at home is that kind of African accent, some form of African accent. Do you think that child will be able to connect? There's something that connects me to that child. I saw this over and over. They just naturally gravitate towards you because there's a sense of comfort, like, oh, I belong. So if I go to an organization, a school, and I feel like, oh, I have an accent. And I want to speak perfect posh English accent. And I keep working on that. And I'm removing everything that makes me me. Can you see that? Can you see how I've completely removed what I brought to the table? What was unique about me? Low self-esteem is what makes people do that. All what is different about you. Yes, improve. Yes, do everything you can to aspire to new levels, but don't think about, like, even some things you can't even change, like the color of your skin. You can't change color, but say, oh, even though I'm black and white on the inside, you become a coconut, right? Brown on the outside, white on the inside. Is that acting deliberately? Remember, not because you want to improve yourself and be a better version of yourself, but simply because you hate being you. Oh, I don't want somebody to look at me and say, oh, she's black, she's behaving like the black people. So you just want to blend and become vanilla. This is what I'm talking about. The things that make you unique. The things that make you inherently unique. That you can't just wake up about yourself one day and change. That's your contribution to the world. It's a gift. It's a gift to the world. Begin to see that way, and opportunities will open up before you for you to serve humanity, for you to contribute to humanity and live out your purpose every single day. Okay, so let me do a quick recap. In this episode, I have talked about purpose from the manufacturer's point of view, from God's point of view. I have talked about why gifts and talents, focusing only on something as myopic as what are my gifts or my talents, and only thinking purpose can come out of that, is inaccurate. And then I went on to talk about 4 different expressions that you can begin to live out your purpose every single day. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about how to start from where you are with what you've got. So how can I begin to catalog all these things and begin to live out my purpose with every breath that I take every single day? This is Allow Me Brigwe, and I'll be back in the next episode. See you there.